Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today we're taking a look at the top 16 deck lists from the Pro Play Summit PPG Denver. This was a 15k event, but probably most excitedly, this was our first, I believe our very first CCQ with a invite to Continentals up for grabs. First place at the CCQ events will receive an invite to the North American Championships, which is a heck of a prize. Also some non-foil versions of the DLC promos available, the Pegasus, the Mulan, the Simba, and I believe the Elsa. It may not have been all of them, but definitely some non-foil versions of those promos up for grabs. So yeah, this was a pretty big event, and PPG are known to be some of the biggest players in the game anyway when it comes to third-party events. This took place on Saturday the 13th of September, and at time of recording, the 14th, the top 16 is still ongoing. Now, by the time I've got D&D tonight, it's a big one. Alright, it's my campaign, the campaign I've been playing, and my players have been literally on a 6-month chapter of the campaign, and they are just coming to the end of it, so it's a big one. So I've got a session later on, and then I'm probably going to be knackered, so I'm recording this now before the top 16 has actually played out, because if I don't do it now, it won't get done till tomorrow. My plan is that by the time I finish editing it and uploading it, maybe the top 16 is done, and I will put some updates in the description and in the timestamps to let you know the final placements. If I upload it before the top 16 are done, I will come back to it and make those edits. But today we're just going to be looking at the top 16. We don't have a full breakdown of 1st to 16th place, but I will add that in post. A huge field here, no surprise considering what's up for grabs. 303 players, and it was a cut to top 16. So we're going to be taking a look at them. A shout out to the channel sponsor Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. You saucy teapot. But let's look at the top 16 deck lists. Okay, I'm having to add an edit straight away. I started making this video like 10 minutes after the deck lists made their way onto Inkdex. I've recorded and then got halfway through editing, and it's now come to my attention that there are no Amethyst Steel deck lists in the top 16, but that was the first deck that I looked at. And I did what I normally do, which is I talk about the cards in a bit more detail, and then when we see them throughout the rest of the video, I don't read the whole card again if we've already talked about it. So this Amethyst Steel deck list that you're about to see me review as top 16 is not in the top 16. There was an additional Blurple list. Now, I have made the decision to still keep this deck list review in, again, mostly because it's the only time in the video that I talk about specific cards in length, and I don't want to have to go back to re-record the entire thing. Plus, I suppose at the very least, it's some variance in the deck list that we talk about today. But yeah, just to make clear, the Amethyst Steel deck list that I'm about to look at did not make top 16. Everything else is accurate as far as I'm aware, but there is one Blurple deck list that is missing. If you are the Blurple player who I'm missing today, I'm really sorry. Let me know in comments, and I will put it on the tail end of the next video that I do. Also, just to mention, the finals of PPG is going on as I record these words, and it is an Amber Steel mirror match. We've got Sky going up against Doug. So yeah, take that into consideration as you watch this deck list review. Now, we're going to be starting off with the one and only Amethyst Steel deck to make it into top 16. If you've checked out my last video, an interview with Tiago, who was first place at CCS and Southside Gaming running Amethyst Steel, and then he made top 8. PPG had a 5k on the Friday, which also offered some buys for the primary event on Saturday. And I know Tiago made top 8 of that. I'm not sure if he ended up playing it out because he tweeted something along the lines of, oh, I might just drop just to have a little bit of a break before jumping into the main event. So I'm not sure what really happened there. But the point being, Tiago's someone who is definitely made a lot of people pay special attention to Amethyst Steel. It was already in our kind of triangle meta of that Blurple and Amber Steel, but Tiago with a couple of really good performances with it, and then we did an interview with him where he talked all about the deck. It's a deck that I've been playtesting recently and have found a lot of success with, found it to be really consistent, and has the tools to beat pretty much anything. And Tiago said in that interview that he expected a lot more people to come onto Amethyst Steel, which was a bit of a cry moment because the mirror match is literally awful. And from the breakdown that was revealed of the meta share, Amethyst Steel was, I think, the third most represented deck in the room. So only one making it through to top 16 is a bit of a surprise. That being said, a deck that performed, was a large part of the meta share for this event was also Emerald Sapphire, which there's been whispers in the well about Emerald Sapphire for a couple of weeks. And then, again, we spoke to Tiago about its place in the meta, and he said it's an awful matchup for Amethyst Steel. And I think Emerald Sapphire was like the third or fourth most represented deck in the meta share. I'll have to double check that. Yeah, so the meta share was 88 Blurple lists, 63 Amethyst Steel, 47 Emerald Sapphire, 38 Amber Steel, and every other in combination having less than 10 representatives, 8 on Blue Steel, only 5 on Ruby Amethyst. But yeah, so Amethyst Steel, the second most represented deck in the room, but only one making it to top 16. And again, Tiago did say he thought that Emerald Sapphire was a pretty bad matchup for it, and there were a lot of those in the room, so maybe that contributed towards it. Nonetheless, I've been practicing with this deck a lot recently. It does feel super consistent, and you can see that this deck looks very inspired from the Tiago list, most namely 3 copies of Jasmine Fearless Princess, 5-cost Inkable, 3/7 quest for 2. During your turn she gets evasive, and you can choose and discard a card. This character gets Challenger 3 this turn. You can also trigger this multiple times. Discarding cards is sometimes good in a dock deck. Again, if you're planning on going into a dock anyway and you weren't going to play the card in your hand, or it's uninkable or whatever, this is a good way to get cards out of your hand and still have them mean something. So Jasmine now hitting for 6 is pretty relevant, takes out a Sideways Hades, takes out most relevant things in the meta bar a Madam Mim Elephant, but hey, maybe you get that extra damage from something else, or you just pop her up again if you've got the cards to spare. But questing for 2, I think she's a really solid 5-drop to include. And a couple of other differences from Tiago's list, we're seeing 3 copies of Happy, who's a 1-cost, 2/1 quest for 1 and gains evasive during your turn, which is super reasonable. Evasive is very, very relevant. We are running 2 Hypnotic Strength and 3 Jafar Aspiring Ruler to boost strength, to give Challenger 2 for a turn respectively. And Hypnotic Strength also good for popping those Iagos. The illusion with the Vanish keyword, those Iagos are pretty brutal into this deck list. So yeah, I think this Happy is very reasonable, and we're running 4 copies of Jafar Royal Vizier, who's a 2-cost Inkable 3/2 quest for 1 and gets evasive during your turn. So again, it's an evasive answer, and let's not forget the elephant in the room. I'm still making that joke, yes. Dumbo, the 9th wonder of the universe! 4-cost Inkable 3/3 quest for 1, evasive, and you can exert and pay 1 to draw 1, gain 1, and your other characters with evasive gain that same ability. So that's going to be the Happy, the Jafar, the Genie Satisfied Dragon, the Genie Wish Fulfilled, the Elsa, and the Jasmine. So lots of cards that we can trigger with this Dumbo. And this Dumbo is very much establishing itself as it's a late game card that's going to help you just go over your opponent, right? Like if you play it on curve, it's probably getting popped straight away, plus you don't have a lot of targets for it. But if you get to that point in the game, you and your opponent maybe have 1 or 2 characters down each, and it's a bit of a stalemate. Someone's waiting for some sort of wall breaker to come in. But if you can play Dumbo and you've still got enough to exert 1 or both of the other characters, hopefully they have evasive, then you're drawing cards, and that's going to give you, again, you're going to start to out-resource your opponent, and it's just a really good finisher, really solid for helping you get over that line and just create card advantage while gaining lore. 2 copies of Belle, of course, to move off of these fairly big bodies, things like Genie Satisfied Dragon and Cobra, Genie, Elsa, Jasmine. Yeah, there are plenty of bodies here, and Belle is absolutely a wall breaker. 4 copies of Strength, one of the best cards in the deck. And yeah, this deck just wants to stay super low to the ground. It's got the tools to be able to combat very aggressively with Captain Hooks, Calhoun's. Jafar even hits for 3, and we've got our battle tricks in terms of Jafar and Hypnotic Strength. Genie Satisfied Dragon, one of the best cards in the meta right now, just as a 3-cost with that stat line is amazing. You will quite often get a 2-for-1 out of Genie, and being evasive is so relevant. So yeah, overall a really solid looking deck list. A shame to not see some more in the top 16. Again, I do think some of that will be towards the amount of Emerald Sapphire that was in the room. Overall, I still think this is a very good deck, but may have just been pushed out of the room today. But nonetheless, a huge congratulations to Red Saber. All right, let's move on to the first of 2 Emerald Sapphire decks. So here we go. Let's talk about this one. A couple of very appealing reasons to want to pilot this deck. For a start, you get access to Hades, which is the prime removal, the premier removal in the game. We're doing Sapphire things like sailing and T-Po and ramping up, which is always very, very good. But then to look at the Emerald side of the coin, we get access to the best board wipe in the game, Under the Sea. 8 cost uninkable. Sing together 8, so you can use multiple characters to exert to sing this as long as they reach a total cost of 8 or more. Put all opposing characters with 2 strength or less on the bottom of their player's deck in any order. 2 strength or less is extremely relevant. We just looked at the Amethyst Steel deck, where you're going to wipe all their cheap beat sticks like the Captain Hooks and even some of the mid-game cards like Genie and Elsa. So that's huge. Against Amber Steel, you're already taking out Auroras, Daisy Ducks, Mulans, Pennies, Troubadours, Nalas, Tianas, like basically that whole deck, bar a couple of characters like Pluto before you've put damage on, and a shifted Rhino. And in Blurple, again, you get their beat sticks like Rafikis and Royal Guards, you get their T-Pos, their Basils, you get their Genies, you get their Elsas. Overall, just a lot of our meta already fitting into perfect range for Under the Sea. But then if we combine it with a tool from Sapphire, heads held high, touch the sky, you mean everything to me. And you really do. You do, my guys. 6 cost inkable, sing together 6, remove up to 3 damage from any number of chosen characters. All opposing characters get -3 strength this turn. So -3 strength is putting pretty much everything that's relevant in our meta into range of Under the Sea. You need to have at least 6 strength to not fall to this combo. So Monstro is basically the only thing that evades it. Maybe you can like play some Lumieres and get some characters like high enough that they avoid this, but you are more often than not wiping all of the significant characters from their board and just running away with the game. I mentioned Hades as premier removal, but we also get to play You're Welcome to shuffle a character item or location, going to be a character most of the time, back into that player's deck, and then that player shuffles and draws 2 cards. You can use this on your own cards if you just want to draw something, or again, you're just removing something from the board that's going to be annoying for you. You also get to play one of the best draw engines in the game in Clarabelle, the 1-drop having the ability that can break items. If you pay an extra 2 when you play Clarabelle is relevant for there's some Emerald Chromacon decks that have been around. Maybe you run into some Maleficent Staff, so maybe that comes up, but she's just a fantastic shift option for our Clarabelle Light on Her Hooves, who's a 7 cost inkable 5/6 quest for 2, shift 5, and at the end of your turn, if chosen opponent has more cards in their hand than you may draw cards until you have the same number. So we're depleting our hand, we're playing things like T-Po, Sail the Azure at Sea, and double inking, getting our hand down nice and low, and then we're shifting into a Clarabelle and hopefully drawing at least 3 or 4 cards from any opponent that's like trying to keep resources and keep cards in their hand. Maybe they play their hand down, they're a dock deck or something like that, but that's where tools like You're Welcome come into play, where we can bounce something away, make them draw, and then we're drawing more cards. Definitely an argument to playing a copy of Bend to My Will in here, but we're not seeing it in this instance. You also get to play 4 copies of Basil, Undercover Detective, who is again some of the best removal in the game at the moment. It's not straight removal, it's bounce, but still. 7 cost inkable 5/4 quest for 2. On play, you can return chosen character to that player's hand, and whenever he quests, your opponent discards a card from their hand at random. So bouncing something on play, and then on quest, you get a built-in We Don't Talk About Bruno. That is fantastic. 5/4 stat line, like 4. We'd like this to be more than 4 willpower, but then he would probably be too good, to be honest. So, like, most decks will be built to be able to answer this, but again, this is the point, right? You Under the Sea, and then as they start playing like 1 character at a time, you Basil and just bounce it back, and then he's hopefully going to be safe for at least a turn. He's discarding something, you're following up with more threats, more Hades, things like that. We're running 2 copies of Baymax in here, who has that universal shift 4, so can shift onto anything. T-Po being a fantastic choice, Bobby being a fantastic choice, just a really fast 5/5 quest for 2 beat stick. You get to run John Silver, one of my favorite characters in Disney, one of my favorite first chapter cards. 6 cost inkable 5/5 quest for 2, and on play, give your opponent Reckless, and on quest, give an opposing character Reckless. Let's make Reckless great. Let's stop it singing. I want Reckless to be good. I really want Reckless to be good. That being said, not a lot of songs in format at the moment, so this Reckless does come up and can be very annoying. And he's just a big boy with a big old stat line. You'd love to see it. Running 4 copies of Donald, Perfect Gentleman. We don't have a lot of draw. Again, like Clarabelle hopefully draws us a lot of cards, but maybe they deplete their hand, so we're not getting a lot of value off of Clarabelle, and we won't be able to play You're Welcome. And to say again, you welcome one of your own cards, but maybe that's losing you too much tempo, like early on in the game, and you're going to be emptying your hand, right, with Tipo and Sale. You really want this Clarabelle to trigger. But we do have a bit of a backup in the form of Donald, Perfect Gentleman. 4 cost Inkable, 2/5 quest for 2. Shift 3 is irrelevant. At the start of your turn, each player may draw a card. That's in the set stage of ready, set, draw. So ready everything, and then you get the choice to trigger this. Your opponent can trigger it as well if they want to. Draw from this, and then you draw a card per turn. Just helping us keep resources. Again, we're a combo deck. Like, we want to get to that point anyway, where as our opponent's drawing cards and applying more pressure to the board, we're hoping for a really unfair under the sea turn where it's just not going to matter anymore. So Donald Duck is a nice inclusion. We're running 2 copies of Pleakley, who can ink one of your own characters on play, which is really nice just, again, as an additional way of ramping you. It's, like, perfectly reasonable to throw away a Tipo and Bobby. Like, you want to get there quickly to the Hades, to the Clarabelle, so Pleakley opens up some pretty cool lines. And we're running 4 copies of Clarabelle, Contented Wallflower. 3 cost Inkable, 2/3 quests for 1. I don't know why I'm doing voices, by the way. When you play this character, if an opponent has more cards in their hand than you may draw a card. I think this is solid. Like, a good opponent will target this Clarabelle as soon as they can. If you're on the draw, then they get the Elsa turn before you get well, not necessarily, depending on your ramp. If they're Blurple, then good odds that they can knock this Clarabelle off before you get a chance to shift it. This Clarabelle is basically just going to have a big target on it, so setting up multiple can be really important just to ensure that you do get this shift off. And again, we're emptying our hand, right, so this Clarabelle should be drawing you a card more often than not. 4 copies of Vision to help us find key pieces in this combo deck. Yeah, I think this is really solid, and again, there was a lot of it in the room. Only 2 made it to top 16, but still, I do think this has a very solid place in our meta. Just a quick addition here. One card I forgot to talk about is Stopped Chaos in its Tracks. We got an 8 cost Inkable, Sing Together 8. Return up to 2 chosen characters with 3 strength or less each to their player's hand. 3 strength or less is pretty relevant. We've got a lot of characters in this deck already built to be able to reach these high numbers with Sing Together. Also, sorry if you're currently hearing Ziggy the parrot in the background. She's having a bath and she loves it, mate. She goes mental for a bath. Anyway, I think this is super reasonable as a inkable card. Just a one-of. It can serve very similar purpose to Under the Sea anyway. And you won't necessarily need the heads held high. So yeah, I think this is solid. Huge congratulations to Daniel. And our other Emerald Sapphire deck, we have Gary Nicholson. Some changes. We've, of course, got that core engine, the Clarabelle, the Under the Sea, the Hands Held High, You're Welcome, things like Silver. We're playing 4 copies of Baymax as opposed to 2. We've got that Perfect Gentleman. We've got multiple Clarabelles. We've got Basil, only 2 copies of Hades. We're also running 2 copies of Improvise, which is a 1-cost inkable. Chosen character gets +1 strength this turn and draw a card. The +1 strength can absolutely matter. Drawing cards as king. And we can target those pesky illusion characters like Iago. So I think this is solid. And we're running 3 copies of Donald Duck, who's a 4-cost uninkable 5/5 quest for 2. Solid. Again, if we're ramping on 2, then we get this down a turn early. The stat line is really nice, and 4 of what we need to be able to sing Under the Sea and Heads Held High is really nice as well. Just another solid, aggressive addition that can contribute towards your combos. So yeah, it looks super, super good. Congratulations to Gary. Going back now to the first of 5 Amber Steel deck lists. Amber Steel won Ink last week. And again, a lot of them were in the room at PPG. 38 players in the room were piloting this. So this is a pretty good progression from today too, from Amber Steel players. We'll start off with Doug Elliott, super aggro, the princess that pulls it all together. 3-cost uninkable, Tiana, restaurant owner. She's a 1/4 quest for 2. And while she is exerted, if an opponent challenges, they must pay 3 ink, or that character loses 3 strength for the turn. This opens up a terrifying line where you can play down a couple of very aggro characters on turns 1 and 2, like Daisy and Nala, get down the Tiana, and then you can put down the Pluto, who's a 4-cost inkable 1/5 quest for 1 with Bodyguard, and he's a 5/5 when he's got no damage on him. This can be such a horrible wall to try to break. Blurple has Into the Unknown. The steel decks can have Strength for a Raging Fire, so you take out the Tiana, but then this Pluto is still probably going to be quite hard to deal with before you can get through to the aggro characters, and maybe they leave it another turn where they can set up multiple bodyguards. There's a couple of copies of the Prince here, who's a 2-cost uninkable 0/5 with Bodyguard, which is hella annoying. So yeah, the name of the game, build a wall, find the right turn to turn everything sideways and just race all the way there. We've got 4 copies of Mulan here, just as a nice 1-cost character to filter through, find pieces that we need, and it can be one of our early challenging characters if we need it to be. 4 copies of Penny, who heals the damage on play and gives a character resist 1 into the start of your next turn. You don't need to heal the damage to give the resist. And she's a 2-quester. 4 copies of Aurora here, who on quest allows you to play a princess or a queen for 1 ink less, which is literally only the Tiana, but that's a perfectly good target. We are probably hard altering for this Tiana. It's a pivotal part of our plans. Being able to put this down from turn 2 is pretty cool, and again, just over turns, you're just going to be able to get out more characters from your hand. We're running Docks, of course, which is going to be our primary draw engine. 3 copies of John Silver is really nice as well to stop an opposing character challenging during their next turn. So again, maybe that's why you wait 1 more turn along with the aggro characters followed by the Tiana and the Pluto. You wait for a turn where you can John Silver so that their most annoying character won't be able to touch you on the next turn. A couple of Jafar Aspiring Ruler to give +2 strength for one of our characters. Again, in the mirror match, you probably need to find the right turn where you make a challenge yourself just to take the board. And this is a 2-quester. 3 copies of Pete, Shutting Down Under the Sea, heads held high, Strength for a Raging Fire into the Unknown seems pretty relevant to me, and he's a 3-cost character that can sing Strength for a Raging Fire. 2 copies of Be Our Guest in here as well, a card that was brought back recently by Sky at the Ink, and we'll be talking about Sky again in a moment. But this is just a really solid song just to help you find that key piece when you need it, whether it's a Pete to shut off those actions, finding a Doc to replenish your resources, a Pluto to be the bodyguard, whatever it is. I mean, it's just a really solid inclusion. And we're seeing 4 copies of Sven, which was popularized by Kurt Spies last week at Ink in his Amber Steel deck. 4-cost Inkable 3 quests for 2, and on play you can ready a chosen character, which can be just good for keeping a character safe, meaning they're not going to be challenged on the next turn, so ensuring that they're going to get another quest. But there's some really cute interactions, especially in the mirror match, where you can ready your opponent's Tiana, so you no longer need to worry about that piece of the wall, and you can probably break their board from that. So, and he's a 3/3 quest for 2, which is pretty good. So really solid looking list. Nice to see these additional bodyguards coming up. There was a list we looked at recently where someone was also playing Jim Deere. Maybe we'll see that again today. Mr. Arrow is certainly a card that we don't see as much. 2-cost Inkable 1/2 quest for 2 with resist 1, but again, just speaks to the setting up this wall, being able to like maybe you set up the wall going to Tiana, Pluto, or you even play it off curve, right? Maybe you put down Tiana on turn 2 because of Aurora, and then over the next couple of turns you're able to go like Penny, Mr. Arrow, and then into Pluto, and like that probably just opens up some just even more aggressive lines. And Nala here, who quests for 3 and has resist while she's got no damage on her, and Lady's going to cheat out even more of these. Yeah, he's another 2-cost character the Lady can cheat in. Just basically our gas, no breaks, Naramin. Jacob Fatu. Looks really solid. Congratulations to Doug. Another Amber Steel deck list here in top 16. I don't know if this is Jill or Gil, but shout out to you, my friend. A lot of the same sort of cards that we just talked about. We are seeing 2 copies of Fire the Cannons in here, which is a really solid on the draw card to pop your opponent's Captain Hook, their Aurora, whatever it might be. We're also seeing 2 copies of Snow White, which came up at the Ink event last week in Amber Steel. 4-cost Inkable 2/2 quest for 2. This character can't be challenged. Again, if they've got the strength, the cannons, the into the unknown, things like that, then yeah, they just answer it. And 4-cost is kind of expensive, but if they don't have the answer at the point of, like, it's a great board breaker, right? Maybe if you're both topping and you were able to get this Snow White, then they have to pray to hit a cannons, or even a strength might not be enough unless they already have a couple of bodies on board. She is inkable. I do like the inclusion. I think she's pretty cute. And we're seeing 2 copies of Bolt, who also came up last week. Is this just the same deck? It looks very similar, but nonetheless, this Bolt, 3-cost Inkable, 0/4, quest for 4, my guys, and enters play exerted. Even entering play exerted. Like, 4 can be a lot to ask. Maybe on the turn you play him, you're then also questing with your 1 and 2 cost characters. So if they're investing multiple challenges into this Bolt, this 4 willpower, then maybe you're taking the pressure off of the 1 and 2 drops. And if he does get to survive, then you quest for 4. So that's pretty huge. We're also seeing 4 copies of Sleepy. 2-cost Inkable 0/4 quest for 1. And Bodyguard, which is the exact same ability and stat line as Jim Deere. I mentioned a moment ago, we saw this in a deck last week. Again, I just read out exactly what it does. It's exactly the same thing, but now we've got 8 of them, so we've got even more bodyguards that we could set up. So we have only 3 Pluto in here, which is a bit of a surprise. It just seems like a very pivotal piece of that curve, right? But hey, maybe you don't need it if you've got this many bodyguard 0/4 2-cost characters. Yeah, pretty spicy. We see the Jafars, the John Silvers, Mr. Arrow making his way in, and everything else looking pretty similar to what we just spoke about. So yeah, just the Bolt and the Snow White, not as common, but we did see them last week. But the Sleepies, along with the Jim Deers, that is a wall, my guys. Nonetheless, congratulations to them. We've also got Drew here, a lot of the same sort of things, 2 copies of Cannons, where we are seeing those 3 copies of Sleepy. No Jim Deere in here, but I do support running Sleepy. Let's give Sleepy a spotlight, yo. But we are also seeing that Rhino shift line, the 1 cost 1/16 Wolf, giving -1 strength to a character on play, and then the Floodborn Rhino, the Power Hamster, 4 cost Inkable 4/3 quest for 2, shift 2, and while he has no damage, he gains resist 2. This is one of the cards that is the reason that so many decks are built to be able to hit 5. It's important for the Rhino, it's important for the Pluto as well, because if you don't, then this little hamster can absolutely run rampant on the game with just a really aggressive stat line. It's really hard to, you can't take him out across multiple turns. You've really got to do it in one. If you try to do it across multiple turns, then you could be punished by the penny, although the Rhino player can set up penny value anyway, just by like challenging something that has, say, 3 strength, so you only take 1 damage because of the resist 2, but then you lose your resist 2, so penny comes in and saves the day. 2 copies of Lawrence, just another really solid looking list. Congratulations to Drew. Another Amber Steel list here from Alex Hansen, whose name I recognise. I feel like, were they Ink last week? Maybe, or at least I feel like I've covered them recently. Nonetheless, running some Amber Steel, the slightly different card to talk about in this list is When Will My Life Begin? Which is a 3 cost Inkable. Chosen character can't challenge during their next turn. Draw a card. Pretty solid. We've seen other players include the 3 cost John Silver, which gives half of this ability to stop a challenge. The benefit of When Will My Life Begin, you are also drawing a card, and you can sing this with a character that you're not too bothered about turning sideways. We are running 3 copies of the Troubadour here, which is good to see, popularized by Sky last week at the Ink event. Again, this deck really wants to prioritize high questers, but it also knows how important it is to be able to sing Strength for a Raging Fire first, or just get more value from it overall. So being able to play Strength a turn sooner, courtesy of this Singer 4, or just be able to set up multiple characters that can sing your Strength, even if they're able to pop one off the board before you get a chance. This Troubadour just putting into work. And if you're going to run this Troubadour, Sky was running Be Our Guest, but before the event, he was originally running this When Will My Life Begin, which, again, as we've just said, the John Silver effect can come in handy. Obviously, if you just play John Silver, then you get to also establish a body. But I think this just wanting to benefit a bit more from the inclusion of the Troubadour, so I can respect it. We're running 3 copies. We got a Jim Deere believer here. Yo, Jim Deere versus Sleepy. Next poll on the channel. Other than that, a lot of the same sort of tricks. 2 cannons, the Rhino shift line looks solid. Congratulations to Alex. Our final Amber Steel deck list in top 16. We've already mentioned him a few times. We have Skylar, the Roof and Sky Dunce. Friend of the channel, fantastic player. I think probably one of the best players to have not played at Worlds. And there are a list of people, there are more names on that list. But Skylar definitely among them, and finding a lot of success super early in Fabled format. This is the 2nd or 3rd week where we're talking about a Sky list. I know he was recently on Lorcana, or was going to be, but there was a sound issue, so they're going to do another interview with him, which I'm really looking forward to. I think Sky is just like, he's one of the best minds in the game, and just a super good human being, so I've always got a lot of good things to say about Sky. And yeah, this list, very similar to what he ran at Ink last week, but not playing the Be Our Guest. I think the Aurora is the new card. I don't believe he played Aurora before. There also may be a change in counts of the Peats. I think he was running Peats before. Maybe it was 3. You know what? Instead of guessing, I'm just going to look. So yeah, took out the Be Our Guests, has added a Fire the Cannons, has taken out 1 Peat, was running 4, and taken out the Captain Hook. So yeah, the Auroras are new. And 2 copies of Sven is new. I think definitely inspired from Kurt Spies, but we are seeing those 4 copies of Troubadour. Even with Strength being the only song, it's just so important to be able to set up this singer. And with the exception of Pete, we don't want to be singing it with any of our other 3 cost characters. So yeah, super solid looking list. Clearly, the Aurora being the main new toy for Sky and led him to top 16 and potentially even further by now. Congratulations to Sky. And finally, our Blurple deck lists. Now, we have broken down Blurple a lot over the last couple of videos, so I'm not going to go into too much depth here. I will just highlight unique counts or any specific differences between deck lists. But for just a general overview for our first Blurple list to look at, coming to us from Christopher Becker, we've got a 2-line special. We've got the Premier removal in Hades and Into the Unknown. Bell is a fantastic ball breaker. We've got a Rule Guard Believer, and of course Basil, that support keyword, adding a lot of value for your Elsas, taking out Genies, getting rid of Dumbos, things like that. Of course, Dumbo the Elephant himself here, we've already spoke about him. 3 copies of TikTok in a high evasive meta. You're going to hope to get a lot of value out of this, and a lot more players running answers to Iago. So Iago, while being cheaper, maybe not being safe enough at the moment. And again, in a ramp deck, then 6 cost is not really a 6 cost. I'm running 3 copies of Donald Duck Focused Flatfoot to help us even more with ramp. It's a quest for 2 characters, so just a bit more aggression. It looks really solid. 2-line special. 3 copies of Pleakley, actually, is kind of unique. I nearly missed that. But again, just another solid way to ramp yourself to that high number even quicker. We're not running any second star to the right in this list. So this deck actually seems a little more consistent. Less uninkables. More ways of being able to ramp us up to our Hades and stuff like that, so they're not all junked up in our hand. Yeah, overall, it looks solid, so congratulations to Christopher. Next up, Jacob, who is a Rafiki believer, also running the 2 Dig a Little Deeper, which is kind of spicy. 2 copies of Elsa, 4 copies of Develop Your Brain, again, help us find turn 2 ramp, give us options to dig in the mid to late game, also running 2 copies of Vision of the Future towards that purpose, and we are running 2 copies of that Iago, Giant Spectral Parrot. Tiago's mascot. Just saying, it should be. It just feels right. Yeah, this is solid. Again, people are running more answers to this. You're seeing a lot more Hypnotic Strength. It was already a popular card, but you're seeing them in higher counts, and some decks that were cutting them and just running like Jafar's, opting to play them just to get around this Iago. Of course, things like Improvise, and also something that I forgot to mention earlier on when we were discussing Green-Blue, was that the Heads Held High just pops all your illusions, because you target characters, right? So you can just pop illusions, that Raja, that Palace Guard, that Giant Cobra, that Iago, gone, mate. So you can be very punished for this, but it is a very cheap, fantastic body with that evasive keyword. But yeah, looks good. Congratulations to Jacob. Next up, we've got Tim Scarrow. Yo. That is a cool name. That is like, I could announce that at WrestleMania for winning the WWE Championship. You can just hear it. That's a cool name, my guy. I don't know if anyone's ever told you, but you got a cool name. We are seeing 1 copy of Second Star to the right, that 10 cost uninkable. Sing Together 10, which we can set up fairly easily if we go T-Po into a 4-drop, into a 5-drop. Again, we are then probably turning our characters sideways sooner than the opponent, and they get to establish the challenges to hopefully be more favourable for them. But if we've got evasive characters, and like, hey, even if they do break our board a little bit, we just drew 5 cards. Hopefully we can redeploy, get some Elsas down of our own, take control, and it's a fantastic if you're both in a stalemate and you like just both have a couple of like really sub-bar characters, but they total 9 and you draw this, then it's just Jova, mate. It's Jova. Also 2 copies of Baymax, popularised by Zenulus. 5 cost inkable, 2/6, quest for 2. On play and on quest, you can remove it to 2 damage and gain a lore for each damage removed. This way, a lot of big bodies. The Hades, the TikTok, the Elsa, the Bell, the Elephant, the Iago. There's a lot in here. This deck looks very good. Congratulations to them. Next up, Alex Stewart playing 1 copy of the Baymax, 2 copies of Second Star to the right, a Rafiki Believer, 2 copies of Elsa, everything else pretty standard, 3 copies of that Giant Spectral Parrot. Looks good to me. Congratulations to Alex. Next up, we got Jordan. Oh, wait a minute, no. I saw an interview with this person. Is it Jordan? Is it Jordan? Yo, Jordan, are you listening? I've paid attention. I've been doing my studying. We got Jordan. If I'm wrong, then cut all this. Forget it happened. We got Rafiki Believer, 3 copies of Second Star to the Rat, back gold. But we're not playing any Elsa, so the uninkable count might not be that bad. 4 copies of Hades, 2 copies of that big bad Monstro. Again, just like a nice board clearer for these annoying 1 and 2 drops and elephants and things like that. So, looks solid. 3 copies of Develop Your Brain. Another fantastic looking list. Congratulations to Jordan, or Jordan. Next up, we got Matthew, a Royal Guard believer, a Monstro believer, 2 copies of Elsa and 2 copies of Second Star to the right, 4 copies of Iago Spectral Parrot. My man be high rolling. My man be like, I am running the best cards in the game. Let's hope I see them at the right times. And it led them to top 16. So couldn't have gone that badly. Couple of copies of Finders Keepers in here. Other than that, looks pretty solid. Looks about following the script. Congratulations to you. Next up, we've got Dennis or Denise, not sure, but shout out to you. 1 copy of Elsa, 2 copies of Second Star to the right, 1 copy of Monstro, a Rafiki Baliba, 2 copies of Iago's Giant Spectral Parrot, 4 copies of Develop Your Brain, so really looking for that turn 2 ramp, and we're also seeing 2 copies of Robin Hood Unrivaled Archer, who is very sweet. 6 cost Ingable 4/4 quest for 2. If your opponent has more cards in their hand than you when you play him, you draw a card, and he gains evasive during your turn. Solid. Fallen off in a lot of the Blurple decks that we've seen recently, but I think Robin Hood is a pretty classy card, so I think you're a pretty classy person. Dennis or Denise, not sure. Nonetheless, shout out to you. And that is it. We're about at the 50-minute mark, so I'm keen to wrap it up. But yeah, I will update when we've got the final standings. I'll put in the description. I'll make a note of their final placements and in the timestamps. Hopefully they've finished by the time I upload this, so I can do it prematurely. But it may finish too late, and I might need to go to bed after the day I've had. So if you're seeing this and it isn't in the description and the timestamps, rest assured I will add those things as soon as I wake up, basically. But yeah, shout out to PPG Denver for putting on another big event. A lot of fantastic players in the room. Loved the broadcast. Been thoroughly enjoying watching the stream. And I'm actually now gonna, well, I'm gonna edit this, but I'm now gonna have the top 16 up in the background. I'm not sure where they are now. Nonetheless, thank you for watching. I forgot my outro for a second. And that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe. Please subscribe. How many of you are still not subscribed? Rawr! Hit that like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.